everybody, good afternoon. I'm so pleased to be here again. I'm really hoping that I've not scared the other two panellists off. I'm joined here today, back in Milan, back with Reds. Can't thank you enough. For those of you that don't remember me or haven't seen me at Dubai or the Rio conference, hello. Right, well, freeze. I'm Laura, Media Director and Partner at Saudi Projects. We've been in the region for 15 years and we're the Kingdom's largest and most read magazine and projects platform. We're proud to be media partners again, and if anybody here would like to have a feature or an interview and talk to Saudi Projects, please come and see me or Eddie, who's just stood over there, and we'd be glad to feature you. So I'm so proud to be with this amazing panel. We're going to switch things up a bit today. There was meant to be 4 guests, so what we've decided to do is make this an interactive panel. So we're going to be talking, asking questions, and we'd really like for everybody to join in. I think over 50% of the people here, suppliers, architects, are all into intelligent buildings. So please ask questions. Let's ask all these things that you want to ask and find out more, because I'm super interested to find out more. So what is an intelligent building and how's this going to be implemented into the real estate sector in Saudi Arabia? We're going to be hearing about the panel's expertise on the characteristics, the implementation and integration process, and what the obstacles are behind intelligent building. And it'll be interesting to get different perspectives from the panel and yourselves. So I hope you enjoy the session and ask away. So let's move on to the introductions. I'm very pleased to announce my esteemed guest today, Mr. Glen Lopes, Design Manager at Dar Al Arkan, and Mr. Alessandro Tedesco, Global Chief Operating Officer at FEBC Group. Can we have a real applause once again? So to begin, let's start with, if you can each tell us about your company, the areas that you specialize in, and work that you're currently doing in the region. So, Glen. Yeah,
so thanks for calling me here, GVB. And it's great to be with everybody, and happy to have met who I've met, and look forward to meeting the rest. I'm an architect by profession. I have about 30 years of experience working on the consulting side as well as the developer side, and currently I'm working with Dar Al Arkan. We basically are developing projects like villas, which are branded villas with different brands. We're also doing towers, residential towers. Currently in the pipeline, we've got many projects, master developments and stuff. So that's what I kind of design and manage in terms of working with consultants and ensuring that the project from feasibility till construction is completed. And that's what Dar Al Arkan basically has as the projects currently.
Fantastic. Yeah. Alessandro.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us here. I'm the CEO for FEBC Group. We provide hospitality services for the industry, which goes from food and beverage consultancy services, procurement management, and pre-opening services. So in the line of the project, we come at the very beginning when we are doing strategies, and then we come with procurement at the very end with the implementation. We're working globally at the moment, a lot in the GCC. I'm based out of the headquarters in Dubai. We have also offices in Italy and in other 5 countries around the world. Primarily hospitality projects, a lot of residential lately, especially serviced apartment and big residential developments. A lot, of course, of food and beverage outlets. And lately also cultural projects, entertainment assets like arenas or stadium, things of this kind.
Okay, thank you. And coming in via video due to his flight being cancelled, we've got an intro to Mr. Christos Passa, Director at architects.
Dear friends, colleagues, and esteemed guests, hello. I am Christos Passas, and I'm sending you this message from Zaharit Architects. I was meant to be there with you today, but unfortunately, due to some flight cancellations, I was unable to make it there. So I'm making this little video to be able to greet you and to also speak to you a little bit about the kind of work that we do at ZHA. The theme of the conference, Intelligent Buildings, can mean a lot of different things. Intelligent buildings may have to do with the way architecture orchestrates social life and societal operations. It may have to do with sustainability as a matter of intelligence applied by humankind for the betterment of the environment. But it may also have intrinsic intelligence in the buildings, in the ways that they operate, in the ways they accept users, and how they manifest their operations. Here at ZHA, we explore all these different aspects in the architectural design work that we do. In one instance, one can say that in terms of sustainability, something that is in the forefront of all of our thoughts currently, and I think what's important to acknowledge is that intelligent buildings in terms of sustainability means for us buildings that live in a so-called eco-technological paradigm. We've often seen that ecology and technology move in opposite directions, and we as architects have the obligation to pull those tendencies together and create overlaps that on one hand respect the natural cycles of ecosystems, and on the other hand to be able to create the innovations and the explorations that are enabling us to do certain things using technology and inventiveness and innovation. We believe that the combination of these two tendencies can be a very fertile way in terms of resolving buildings, and ultimately also a very intelligent way with which to deal with contemporary environmental problems. We also use technology internally in buildings using smart sensors and other building systems to be able to anticipate the movement of people through buildings, and to also enable this reactiveness from building themselves. And oftentimes, through these sensors, we collect metadata, which we translate into sort of behavior patterns, for example, in offices, not only in terms of climatic controls, shading, the way that lights open and operate, but also in the way maybe robotic furniture can move throughout spaces to rearrange themselves, how screens and certain informations can enhance the experience of the user. And of course, with all of these things, we try to stay faithful to the motto of our company, which is pushing the boundaries of architectural thinking. And of course, hopefully, we can also say that we can expand the territory through which architecture can positively participate in the social sphere. So that's from me, a very short message. I wish you a lovely day today. I hope that the conversation is both productive and inspiring, and I wish you all the very best. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
So that was a great insight to kickstart the discussion and conversation. So when we're discussing intelligent building, it's really a sum of multiple factors that have got to be considered by architects, designers, asset managers, and the developers. This would also include the user experience, the cost, the efficiency, the longevity, the safety, the functionality, and on and on and on. So speaking from the perspective of your respected companies, how do you each plan to work to target these factors under intelligent building? Alessandro, would you like to start?
Yes. So as I told you before, we come in the projects as either at the very beginning, either at the very end. So we were lucky enough to work on the Musharraf development in Doha, which basically is the heart of the Doha city center, which has been completely knocked down and rebuilt according to, I would say, this sustainability, intelligent building, smart building, and creating an environment which is livable also in the harder season, where the Middle East is exposed during the summer. The result out of it, which took many years in the making, in my opinion, is incredible. I mean, it doesn't even look like you are walking into Doha. To tell you the truth, it has been, I think, is 5 square kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, of surface, where you have everything. So you have mixed-use, hospitality, commercial spaces, cultural spaces, and the old design, which has been done and optimized over the years before the construction, has all gone in the direction of creating something long-lasting, which is quite different as an approach with the GCC mentality that we are normally used to, and to create buildings that are really overperforming in terms of sustainability and livability for the end user. The old development has been certified LEED Platinum. Now, the LEED certification is not really a certification that says, okay, then it's an intelligent building, but it's the code that then allows the asset manager to control the life of the building and the fact that the building is performing in a certain way. Okay? And I believe that Glen can articulate a lot more on them, because they are the one that actually design the structure of the building with the engineers. Here there are a lot of engineers gonna see from the area where we live. And as you say correctly before, you need all the players to be involved in the project to be committed.
Yeah.
So it's a development subject in terms of funds and longevity of the project. The asset manager, so what they are looking to have as an outcome from the project, and then all the consultants, so the engineers, the architects, the designers, the lighting consultants, everybody which is involved.
So would you say, going back to Musharraf, that's the closest to an intelligent building, it's moving towards that?
I can tell you that out of all the projects where we have worked on, where there is an hospitality asset or a cultural mixed-use asset, I believe, in my experience, is the one who gets closer to that.
Okay.
Keeping in consideration that we are talking about Middle East, and projects that have been done there. There are a lot of many projects around the world, the US, Europe, which respect the same parameters. Even China, they have very advanced buildings there. And I mean, we have, I can see, a great Italian architect, Marco Piva, who has designed a lot of architectural assets of this kind. So definitely, yes. Even in Abu Dhabi, we have buildings which are, as Christos was saying, in terms of lighting, shading, and livability. So they are active buildings. So they modify their surface or their aspect during the day according to where the sun is going. And this helps, of course, in energy consumption and all the other things.
Thank you. And Glen, what's your thoughts on that?
So as Alessandro rightly put, but what I would like to start is when you kind of think of an intelligent building, when you start, you will always look at the feasibility of it, because an intelligent building is not a cheap building. So as you said, cost is important, efficiency is important, and longevity is. Now, an intelligent building cannot stand by itself. you need the city infrastructure will also help it to be an efficient building if you have, systems in place like basically you've got the proper water coming in, you don't have to depend on a different source. So if your city is planned well, then it kind of helps with the, to kind of get the building, get all the services for the building to kind of, to start with. So like, for example, we were working in Lusail for one project, and they had pneumatic system for their waste collection, which kind of helps in while you're designing. So first of all, it depends on, where you're planning to do the building, right? And what resources you have. Do you have skilled labor to kind of build that building? Do you have intelligent designers who work and done buildings and can put the whole thing together? Because an intelligent building is not something that is just a standalone. I mean, you need architects, you need the funds, you need designers, you need MEP consultants, you need a whole gamut of things, and it's not something small. It is something that has to be planned well. If you don't plan it well, it's not efficient, it won't be cost efficient. So there are so many parameters that an intelligent building requires before you, think of, before you kind of put it together. And you put a project brief together, you have to have all the parameters in place. You'll need to have the budget in place, a realistic budget. Because you can't kind of, stop halfway and say, I don't have the budget for it. Because if you want an intelligent building, you'll need to have quite a few parameters to be ticked off. So that's what I feel.
Okay. Yeah. So does any of our suppliers or delegates have any questions related to that we've just spoke about, to do with the cost, the longevity?
I believe Marco can add.
Mike.
Some interesting points. I mean, he has been designing buildings outside and inside in many countries, and he has faced all these challenges.
Thank you for giving me a voice. Sorry, I turn around.
Yes, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I think that we have to consider the intelligent building as a body. I mean, a body has a structure, so the frame and so on, and then the organism inside, the organs inside, and one of these should be the brain. So the brain should be, as has been said now, thought before, and that should be efficient in terms of what the building should deliver at the end as a service. So we need to understand who is going to use it for which purpose. We are always working more and more on very complicated structures that are not only residence, not only hotels anymore. They are a mix of the two or more. So we need to think of this as, let's say, a full scenario, and we have to work in team. So obviously the architect presents to be always some way the general manager of this situation about the project, but we need architects, we need engineers, we need interior designer, we need MEP people that could be able to achieve the maximum result. Obviously we cannot talk anymore of stupid buildings. We don't need that stupid buildings. We need to knock down all of these and renew them. So we have a big opportunity in Europe, not in Saudi Arabia, where we have to build new things. I believe that we have to focus on many different aspects, like, for instance, how the clients or the people living in the building will perceive the building and use the building. So, for instance, now we are introducing neuro technologies, to understand, to be able to forecast what will be the performance at the building when will be realized. That means the materials, that means the components. There is a lot of design into architecture today. So we design a new door that is endorsing inside the door frame all the controls for the room, the lighting, access, and so on. So we have to be open to experiment. There are many companies here that I know very well, for which we are working too. And I think it's going to be like an orchestra, that should work around this. And then intelligent building more and more will be managed by, I'm afraid, by himself within artificial intelligence. So we have also to think about that, And I think that we can set, you know, the parameters, and obviously we have to focus, as has been said by
Glen.
By Glen, the numbers. We have to be safe with, let's say, the budget that has been placed on top of a project. So we should also sometimes decide how much the building should be intelligent in which direction to, you know, to make it efficient. Last point, we need to think to something that could be modifiable in the time. So it should be flexible. And more, talking about the hotel, for instance, where we are, let's say, a little bit specialist, we need to have people managing the hotel able to understand which kind of technology has been implemented and how much the hotel is efficient to realize what is the purpose of it. So I
Thank you very much, Marco.
Thank you.
Thank you. So from that, we take the retrofitting and pre-planning is key in everything. So how can we make pre-existing structures smart, intelligent, and how would we go about implementing that in... Can you give us some examples? Can you talk about user experience?
User experience retrofitting. Allora, vabbè, it brings me back to my studies of architecture renovation in Venice. Actually, Venice is a classical example. I'm from Venice. So in Venice, there is no space for new buildings. Whatever is there, and there is no space for anything else. So it's all a matter of renovation and, as you say, the implementation of new technologies or an improvement in a structure of the 1500, the 1600, the 1700, okay? Allora, the funny thing is that the structures are still, to date, extremely well conserved. And if you think that Venice is built on wooden poles underneath the sand, it's quite impressive. And tells you that if you build things in the proper way, they are meant to last, not years, but centuries. It's a challenge, I believe, in some kind of buildings, okay? If we talk about Europe or even now certain kind of the GCC, for example, in Jeddah there is a huge project of heritage conservation in the center of Jeddah. It's a big challenge in a sense that you need to work with what you have, implementing all these smart or intelligent solutions. Now, we have a lot of, manufacturers and companies here. I just see Lutron because they are sitting in front of me, okay, where the implementation might be easier because we're talking about, smart system for usability that goes back to the MEP of the house, but there is much more, okay? As Marco was correctly saying, is an anticipation of the behaviors of the user of the building. So basically, if you know that you have someone coming in the room at a certain time doing certain things, the building by itself, according to the data that he has, is able to do certain action before you walk into your room. So for example, in the morning in a cold environment, you have the towel rack in the toilet, which is switching on maybe half an hour before the alarm goes on because it's already, so it's not running the whole night because you know that you're waking up and you switch it on at midnight and it stays on for 7 hours. You switch on half an hour before and it's done. Preheating system, you don't have to wait for the hot water from the tap when you open it because it's preheated and is already there. Lighting system and all these things. So I believe that it's a lot depending where the asset is and what you need to do with the asset as a refurbishment, okay? If you have the possibility to have an intense restructuring, then I think it's easier because you can access to all the backbone of the building and the MEP system in a very, you make the building naked and then you act on whatever you want. If you're talking about retrofitting without having minimal impact on the existing structure, then I think it's more challenging because it's like a microsurgery operation where certain things might be easier because you just pass wires through pipes, but some other intervention might be a little bit more limiting the action. I mean, I believe, Glen, you do retrofitting in the GCC of some buildings.
Yes, you do, because you kind of, maybe the use keeps changing. So it depends. Or even in commercial buildings, you might have a tenant that changes and wants a different, a kind of a smart office. So then you kind of retrofit it, keeping all those aspects in mind.
Okay.
Are you retrofitting buildings? No?
Can we hear from you about any of your buildings that you've worked on? Where you've
You raised
retrofitted?
your hand. You can talk.
Hi,
Hi.
good afternoon, everybody. This is Abbas Al Saleh. I'm the CEO of Afia Holding. So, thank you guys for the brief that you gave us. My question is, don't you think that some of the smart homes is directed the wrong way?
If you just hold it a bit closer. That's it.
Is directed the wrong way. So priority is first more important than anything else. I mean, sometimes putting a stupid smart touch switch in a country where, like Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia or other, where dust is a must every time, and you will need to touch it like for 2-3 minutes, while, as Alessandro said, you need something that understand. I would rather put the value for that switch in spending that, taking care of the curtain to make sure that at night it's dark enough. You know what I mean? So we need to understand the priority itself of smart either residence or hospitality. What is the priority that we need to do?
I think the best to answer you about the switch is just, ladies and gentlemen, on your side, which is actually a switch manufacturer. And I believe they can articulate on that. But talking about the intelligent building is not really the switch itself, is the system that is behind. So the switch is the interface, and I agree with you when sometimes in some buildings you find systems which are too complicated for people to be understood, but that's the interface. Okay, but the system that is behind that, okay, that no one sees, that's the big part that makes the building intelligent or smart or saving energy, get the compliance with LEED or other certifications and protocol of those times. So it's more of a backstage work in terms of architectural design and engineering and MEP design rather than a front end. So what we implement with the FEBC when we do the procurement, especially in Africa where we procure everything from concrete to furniture and everything else, it's a very small part, very, very minimal part. The majority of that is all on the back of the building. But I think they can articulate a little bit on that switch, and they can tell us a little bit more on.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Most welcome.
Okay, so Glen, I'd like to ask you a question. Specifically, what criteria would an area need to meet to be considered as an intelligent building?
So basically, everybody knows about a smart building, which is kind of managed with smart equipment and stuff like that. With an intelligent building, it's just that you have the AI that collects the data and kind of uses that data to create a better environment for the user. That's the only difference. But there's a lot that goes into it. Basically, there are still, I don't know whether there are regulations on how to use artificial intelligence and up to where. So that's something I need to kind of understand, whether it's good or do you kind of do a hybrid between a smart building and an intelligent building where you still have the asset managers kind of controlling the data and the artificial, the decisions that the artificial intelligence takes, because it's difficult to understand whether it's a right decision or no, right?
Okay.
I don't think that there are many studies that have been done also. So I think some regulations need to be put in place, that also.
So what would you say are some of the ways then that AI you've just talked about can impact the end users in intelligent building?
That's what we need to understand. I don't think there are too many intelligent buildings built now. So it's still in a nascent stage, and it's still experimental, I guess. So as soon as, you get more data and we work on intelligent buildings, we'll kind of, there are many parameters to kind of get to a final good intelligent building. So we need to, does anybody around here have done any intelligent buildings? Using artificial intelligence, who could kind of just help us with whether there are any regulations in place?
No. Yeah, you have done some for sure.
We should get you a chair if you like. Anu, can we have the speaker again, please? So really, as it's all in its infancy, this is a learning stage everywhere.
That's what I believe, yeah.
Do we have a mic?
Can we have a mic, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I could speak about the project that we saw this morning introduced by Lamborghini, Torino Lamborghini, because we designed the building there in China. And we had to face, I don't want to say that it's a super intelligent building, but it's intelligent enough to react to the situation where it is placed. The local geographical situation is Sichuan, so we have a lot of earthquake, has been studied to react to the eventual quake, So the design itself, that at the beginning has been thought like 300 meters high, is just divided in two, so we have two twin buildings that are vibrating, to, how can I say, to reduce the impact of earthquake waves,
Okay.
for instance. There are a lot of safety procedure to follow, for the people coming down from 180 meters high down to the floor level quickly as much as possible. Then we have the theater inside that has been thought as a box in the box to react structurally, to this situation. And then we have everything connected with the light, with the ventilation, with the speed, wind, So all these elements are part of the project and gave a certain level of intelligence to the building that automatically could react to some of these situations. For instance, when you have the theater full of, 3,000 people, all the rest of the building should be able, to react to this big presence that could come and go, And then, as you said at the beginning, the building, to be very intelligent, should be rooted into the structure of the city in the way to react to the facilities, to receive energy, maybe give back energy when it's producing energy,
Right.
instead of through the solar panels or whatever. So, these are some of the levels that you can reach, and then there is automation inside, So, you have, as I said before, you need to have a very clear target in mind and try to get the best from any technology that is available and to put them together in a new scenario. And then again, teach the building to react, because that is not automatic. It should deliver a sort of protocol. I don't want to say there is a rule, but some protocols that could be followed to make it efficient and properly working. This is my answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alessandro, intelligent buildings, as we talked about, can be costly and time-consuming. So how do you think companies need to approach this, thinking about investors? That's going to be key to...
So out of experience, I can tell you what I saw in Dubai. So Dubai, since I came the first time 16 years ago, and I started living there, has gone through different cycles, and one of which was the type of construction of buildings. Okay, So in the early, I would say in the 90s and early 2000, majority of the work was done from foreign companies. And you can see that the quality and the structure was there. Then starting from 2004-5, for a few years, there were a lot of startup locally and a lot of local contractors and things and budget constraints and of course high return of investment on the single asset, okay? So we're talking about a payback period of 2 years, which is like unheard, okay? But that's what was happening. But the reality is then, okay, you have an IRR very high, but that comes with a price. And the price came much later. It's coming now, it came already a few years ago, when then heavy renovation and heavy refittings are required, not only in the simple appearance of, if we talk about hospitality assets, just to stay in a single cluster of industry, so whatever is the interior, but also what were the systems. So the systems that were put in place, that were not quality-wise at the right level to face the environmental situation, to face the use of the building, because that's the other problem, how the building will be used. So you have buildings like, for example, house of apartments where there is a kind of usability, but then an hotel, for example, is a completely different use. Is much heavy on certain level of the building and much more relaxed to other levels. Now, these things seem stupid arguments, but they must be plotted in the feasibility of the project at the beginning. Now, sometimes it's boring to be heard, but at the end of the life cycle of the building, we are talking at least of 25 plus years, okay? In Europe, buildings are not done to last 20, 25 years. They are meant to last 50 years, 70 years, 100 years. Again, if you look at Venice, where I was born, we're talking about hundreds of years, and the buildings are still there. So that's a good investment because the asset is generating then a lot of revenues after the return of investment. In Dubai now, there is a different approach to construction. So we are going back to quality. So investors and developers realize that, maybe that was not the smartest way to approach buildings. Now you can see much higher investment per square meter. And the result is quite noticeable. So, in terms of quality of the building, of feeling of end user, and also of system. But again, it's a process, and I think Saudi Arabia now is going through the same process. Wherever they are renovating assets or they are building new assets, I believe there is more attention to these kind of things. Red Sea is maybe a perfect example of this kind of approach, where everything is done towards sustainability. NEOM is another completely different approach with the line, where you have not only the sustainable aspect, but you have also a complete rethinking of the interaction between user of the building, the environment around it, and the environment where the building itself is erected. So there is what actually, Mark was saying before, and what Chris was saying before. So it's an interaction of the environment around it, understanding how the building should interact with the environment, and then, of course, as Glen was saying, the perfect fitting to make sure that all the infrastructure around the building are capable to sustain the building and vice versa.
Okay. So do you have any thoughts on that, Glen?
It's similar. I mean, he's articulated pretty well. But what I would like to add is, as Abbas kind of pointed out, you have to be, first of all, you have to have the right project brief. You need to decide where you're putting the money efficiently, smartly, intelligently, and you have to have an intelligent team to do that intelligent building. That's what I would put it as.
Okay. So, lastly, I'd like to ask you again, to everybody here that's either in that sector or wants to know more about it, thinking about the Saudi market, what advice would you give to suppliers, architects, designers about their approach to this?
But suppliers and manufacturers need to keep on going, creating fantastic products. That's the key.
Innovative.
Okay, and being able to expose it to the market, because that's another problem. You have fantastic ideas which are actually realized and put on the market, but then they have a limited outreach in the global environment. Okay, now, you know, in some projects in Saudi Arabia, I cannot mention the name, but, you know, we have been asked to bring innovative products to the table to be able to implement those products into the project itself, but not at the implementation phase, at the pre-concept stage.
Okay.
So they need to continue just to create beautiful things as they are creating now. And then cost-wise, I think that in many regions now you have the right level of investment for certain assets, but it has to be always in that direction.
Okay. Any advice, Glen?
The same thing. I think cost is the most driving factor, whether it's a developer or an end user. So you have to be have the right budget, have the right cost, and the right product that fits in together to make it the right building, intelligent building.
Fantastic. Does any of our suppliers now have any more questions to ask? Yep, we've got a few here.
Who starts?
Who's first? Go ahead.
No, I mean, there's obviously no doubt whatsoever that intelligent buildings are more efficient, more save money and everything. But I think that the biggest problem we have, going back to the point you were mentioning about cost, it's who spends this money? You know, it's always a capex against opex things. In the long run, we have to make sure that the cost that you're spending in a building, as you see, the buildings are not for 10, 20 years, they're much more. And the running cost of, let's call it a stupid building compared to an intelligent building is huge. And this is the thing that we have to change our mentality in saying that, okay, we are doing a building, it will cost us X more, but in 10 years, it will cost us less. And I understand in hospitality, it's very difficult because the investor wants the building as cheap as possible and the operator wants it as expensive as possible. So, but we have to, I'm not sure how this could be either through regulation or through just hammering the clients until they go down that lane. But I think this is the critical factor in going to intelligent systems in the region at least.
Look, if I can break something in favor of the operators, I can tell you that they don't want the buildings as expensive as possible. They want the building more in line to the brand standard as possible. Why? Because it's a long investment. I mean, now HMA, hotel management agreement, are much narrower in terms of years. But until a few years ago, we're talking about a marriage of 20, 25 years. So the thing is that if the project is done according to the brand standards, has a much bigger probability to overperform over the years. Why? Because the brand standards are created out of years and data and experience. So when an operator tells you that they need these things, it's not because they woke up in the morning and say, you know, I want the mattress done in a certain way. No, because they saw, according to the data, the usability of their guests, that actually that brings revenues, because they are interested in revenues as much as the asset owner. In terms of costing, I would say that you cannot pretend to have a Mercedes in your garage and you want to spend the money for a used car of 15 years. It doesn't work, unfortunately. So the most important thing is to choose the product that you really want, and then make sure that the product that you want is according to the budget that you can invest. It's not difficult.
Thank you very much. Next question.
Good afternoon, Samar from ISG. My question in terms of security, safety, and emergency response. Where do you see the intelligent building? It's an enhancement for these sectors, or still there is a risk and hazard out of this one? Thank you.
Good question. All this AI.
I can answer. Look, we have done a couple of assets in Saudi Arabia. I won't mention the place, so when people goes there, don't get alarmed. But actually, there's apparently no security. In reality, people are under security surveillance from the moment they are arriving to the property. Now, people don't know, but there is a backbone of technology and safety, which is humongous. But then the experience is very nice, because you stay in a place with no fence, no walls, completely open to the nature, and you enjoy it actually as an end user.
Sorry, we'll bring the microphone. It's a really good question.
The other part now, when we talk about the intelligent, and there is everything will be through the network and systems and firewalls and all these things. So where is this technology, and see what's going in the market now?
You'll have to have that contingency
Exactly. So
to get a good security system.
yeah, sometimes the people, they want to feel the security, not only just to know there is the cameras on this one. So the presence of the security guard in the entrance or in the lobby or somewhere, it's sometimes giving the touch of the I am secure.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that there are technologies now where you don't need actually the physical guy at the door. Okay, there is a technology that traces you, your face, your bio data from the moment that you are approaching the building, and then they follow you in all your movements. Now, it might be nice to know or not nice, but they guarantee a level of security which is very high. Talking about hacking, I mean, we even have been hacked not too long ago. So there you need to implement as much as possible the IT security of your infrastructure.
Thank you. What else? Yes, could you just pass the microphone?
Can we please make this real quick?
Have we finished? Sorry, I didn't realize. Okay.
Ahmad from Saudi Hospitality Company, PIF. So do you think that the intelligent buildings has reached, as a technology, a maturity so that, if not, then how can we convince, or what are the recommendations and precautions that you will take in consideration of the new projects that will minimize the risk if you are putting, too much investment at this time, and this technology will become obsolete after a few years, or it will become a headache for the building because you need to adapt into new technologies. And this is one point. And the other question is, usually we're talking about all positives about the intelligent buildings, but what are other problems that introduced when we involve the intelligent buildings, or at what level we should consider having intelligent buildings? Thank you.
You want me to answer?
Go ahead.
I believe nowadays it's a must. So you cannot have a building like it was designed 20 years ago. It would be crazy. You need to involve and include these kind of technologies. And I believe that, even we have Lutron here, they can explain in details how their technology evolved over the past 20 years. And it's like a complete transformation. I don't believe the system will become obsolete at this moment. You might have upgrade of the system over the past years and decades. It's like, if I give you an example, like for example, the solar energy. So for years, we saw the implementation of solar panels coming up very slowly. Then all of a sudden, now in the Middle East especially, it's like solar energy everywhere. So I don't think that the technology changed overnight to become super efficient and super rewarding. It's a matter that it had a sort of a learning growth over the past decade, and it actually makes sense at this time. 10 years ago was maybe a bet, 15 years ago. And then maybe it's does an investor want to bet on something or not? That's a personal choice.
Okay.
If this answers to your questions. I mean, we can go on and talk for three days, I believe. Look, I tell you my point of view. Saudi Arabia at the moment has a unique opportunity, which I didn't see in the 40 years of my life before. So there is an opportunity to really create things from scratch and be really brave in implementing things. And it's happening already. I mean, project like the line already tells you how the government think about it. It's like, okay, push boundaries, go, go, go. Try. I mean, someone told me, you know, we are flying a plane while we are building it. So, and that's maybe is the perfect example. And I tell you, why not? Because if you don't try, you will never see if you can reach, actually.
Yeah.
So you should push them as much as you can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we're going to have to round up there. And we thought there was only 3 of us, and we were going to... So we've talked and talked, and I'm sorry for anybody that's wants to ask questions, but please come and see the gentleman. And again, once again, if anybody would like to have an interview about this topic or anything else, please come and see myself or Eddie from Saudi Projects, and we'll be as well. So a huge, huge thank you. You've been amazing. Thank you. We learned so much now.
Thank you. Thank you for saving us.
It's okay. And a huge round of applause, please.
Thank you.